Hello there everyone, today we'll be drawing Goku from Dragon Ball and I'll be using this image you see here as my reference for today's drawing. It's the cover of the 14th volume of the Dragon Ball series, and today we'll just be drawing the main character here. So let's get started. Alright, so right off the bat I would first start by drawing his head, and you might have seen in any of the tutorials on YouTube that they use lots and lots of just bullshit guidelines, like a huge circle for the upper part of his head and then drawing cuboids and cylinders for the rest of his body, which is completely absurd. If you just follow along with me here, drawing a very rough sketch using a pencil, you could get a much better result, and I guarantee it. If you do make any mistakes like I just did here, you could just erase and redo them, but you really do not need to use any fancy guidelines to draw an anime character. It's a different thing if you were drawing real people, but here you really do not need any fancy guidelines apart from maybe a few horizontal lines for matching both of his eyes, which I didn't use here, but if you do need them then you should. But really apart from that, you don't need to use any stupid guidelines. So yeah, now I'm just drawing his eyebrows and adding these lines to exaggerate his cheeks, and he has these huge ears which are pretty simple to draw. So if you just follow along here, you can get his ears done and add a few details in there. There's not a lot of detail in his hair. Actually, his hair are very simple to draw, but there is a lot of detail in Akira Toriyama's drawings when it comes to muscle definition. So when we draw his arms, you would need to be careful, but for drawing his hair, yeah, you can just see that I'm drawing long smooth lines, and the only thing you need to keep in mind here is to not draw broken lines. So just train your hand to draw smooth curves using a pencil. You can easily do that through trial and error, like just trying to draw circles and curved surfaces. And we're already done with his hair, so next up we'll be drawing his shirt. And the clothes that Goku wears are made of very thin fabric, which is why they have a lot of folds. So that's something you can keep in mind, that if you want to convey the weight of a material of clothing, then you can do so by adding more folds to it, because the lighter that a piece of cloth is, the more folds it's going to have. And of course he needs to wear light clothes because Goku is a fighter. Well, what do you guys think about the Dragon Ball Super series? I was not a fan of it at first, but lately they are coming up with some good episodes. So let me know if you do watch Dragon Ball Super, but the original Dragon Ball series was really great. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the original Dragon Ball. And yeah, here you can see me drawing his arm, and he has these huge biceps and a lot of muscle definition, which you need to be careful while drawing that. So you can go over your lines as much as you want, like you can see me doing that here. And the point is not to get a perfect rough sketch. The point is to get a very good rough sketch on the paper. that's enough to help you to um, recreate the original drawing. You do not need to draw in everything perfectly. You just need the proportions to be accurate, or accurate enough. And yeah, I really would suggest you to just copy me here if you're drawing with me. And you can notice that I'm not adding a lot of detail to his uniform just yet, because the first step whenever you are drawing a rough sketch is to get the overall outlines correct, and then you go on adding details. So now that we are done with the overall outlines, you can see me adding little bits of detail. And yeah, now we get started with inking using a fine liner. You can see that I'm drawing really smooth, continuous lines, and that's basically the crux of inking for the most part. You have to avoid drawing broken lines. That's the number one thing that's going to ruin your drawing. And you can get a little bit of line variation using fine liners if you just go over the same line again, which you can see me do here every now and then, like when drawing his eyebrows. And again, I'm going over his jawline to add a bit of shadow on one side. And for his uniform, I'll just draw straight fine lines. The more you practice, guys, the more you're going to be good at inking, especially for drawing the hair, like you can see me doing here. You need to have a certain level of control over your hands in order to produce a really good result. So yeah, now I'm just drawing his hand, and the one thing which is different here compared to when I was using a pencil is I'm no longer going over every single line, because these are all final lines. So it's like you try to approximate, using the rough sketch you've drawn, what the final lines should be, and then you just stick with it. So that's, I believe, the best and fastest way to draw anime characters. You really do not need a lot of guidelines. And here I've just erased the lines under his head because it'll take time for the rest of the lines to dry up. And now I'll be using a Pigma brush pen for filling in his hair. Brush pens are really great for filling in large areas, so if you've never used a brush pen, well, you should really give it a try. And even for line work in general, you could ink hair that are filled with a lot of detail, or even clothes, using a brush pen, because it gives you insane line variation. And yeah, you can just see that it gets the job done really quick. And now I'll go over these lines, which some of them get faded after you use an eraser over them, so you need to go in once again and darken them. And now I'll be using a tinge marker in order to add tones to part of his uniform. Now this marker has two tips. One is this chiseled flat tip, which is really good at covering large areas. So you'll just see me completely fill in the middle part of his uniform here using this marker, and it gets the job done really quickly. So a lot of these things I'm using here are just in order to save time, because yes, you could do all of this with a pencil or even a ballpoint pen if you just use some hatching and cross hatching, but it would really take much longer than what you can see here, which apparently is less than a minute. So yeah, I'll just go in here. Now, one thing I did notice is that the marker which I had was sort of running out of ink, so I could add these sort of highlights by varying the pressure, and yeah, you could do some sneaky stuff like that. And then I add all these cross-hatching lines to add more depth to the shirt. And for the other part, I'm just using a pencil. And yeah, now this is supposed to be an orange color, so it's much lighter, and I'm not using that much of pressure in order to fill in this area. And once I'm done with that, I'll go in again with the pencil and add shadows to it. And you can even use your finger or a piece of cotton or a brush to smoothen out these pencil lines, and that way you will get a much more even texture if that's what you're going for. And we're almost done with that, and now it's the time to add shading to his face and the rest of his body, which I'm just using a pencil for here. You could also use a marker here, a very light gray marker, but I just find that I have better control with the pencil. So again, I'm using my finger to sort of smoothen it out every now and then, and that really helps add more depth to it. And yeah, so we're now just adding details here, and you can go on doing that for eternity apparently, but yeah, that sort of completes the illustration, I guess. And let me know what you guys think. I think it came out pretty good, and I'm happy with it. So if you did follow along, let me know if you were able to get the same result, and I'll see you guys in the next one.